So the rules that we come up with, and in our company, what we're going to tell people if this is a serious crack or not, they're as follows. All right. So 1/4 inch. So, and really, that's when I get to it. All right. I want those cracks to be less than 1/4 inch. Once I hit that 1/4 inch thick mark, then we're going to consider these serious cracks, and we're going to recommend to our clients that they get them repaired. Plain and simple. All right. Anything that appeared, fixed, and came back. Oops, sorry about that. And came back. So this is still moving. So I had a crack, I fixed the crack, or I repaired the crack, but yet it's still settling, so that crack ended up coming back again. All right, it's kind of a big deal. So we want to go ahead and get that one taken care of. Anything that is two-directional movement. Anything that's two-directional movement, we consider that serious. So if I had a crack, you know what, I'm going to put a crack here. So this is typically going to be a settlement crack, is what's going up here. I want you to use your imagination. In the corner of this board is a wall coming this way here. Just the fact that the crack is here, I know my foundation is pulled apart. It moved, all right? Now, if that foundation has sliced this way, so it moved up and down this way, or it moved forward and backwards, those are the two directions that I'm talking about. Any crack or anything in the wall where it's moved forward, backwards, up, down, those are serious cracks, and they need to be fixed and secured so they don't end up getting worse anymore. Anything where light's coming through it, all right? We'll put that as number 4 on there. Anything where light is showing through the crack, obviously that's a serious crack. Loose pieces, anything that's coming opposed. If I see the steel and the rebar, we consider that a serious crack and it needs to be repaired. All right. So our company, we don't recommend structural engineers whenever we see these. Now, if somebody wants to disagree with us and they want to go ahead and get a structural engineer out there and let the structural engineer be responsible for or say that it's okay, that's fine too. All right. There's a steady phrase that I keep trying to encourage all of our inspectors to remember is when we walk into that house and we start our inspections, that's not our problem. All right. Somebody else owns that house. I didn't make that crack. That's not my house. I didn't make this situation exist or worse. All I'm there is to view it, all right, and give my opinion about it, plain and simple. However, if I start advising somebody that, hey, this is going to be okay, there's going to, you could go ahead and buy the house, now that problem becomes my problem, all right? So, and if something goes bad and it gets worse, then yeah, somebody's going to start pointing the fingers at me. And you're always going to be finding somebody that has a different opinion, all right, that's going to exist. Even it might be other home inspectors, it might be a structural engineer, and it most definitely will be a foundation repair company that comes out there. Because even if I see some of these items, and I don't think it's a big deal, if I have a company out there that wants to sell a $2,000 to $20,000 repair for these cracks in the foundation to give their client peace of mind, and they're good at convincing somebody that this is serious and you need to do this and your house is, and they start using fear tactics or whatever, they could talk somebody into believing that these repairs are needed, all right? So making it clear to our client, if you want somebody else's opinion, feel free, get it now. But you're paying for my opinion right here and now, and I don't want someone else's problems to end up becoming my problems. when it comes with it. So let's start talking about reading these cracks and trying to identify where the problems are and where they're going to be coming to. All right. So as I said, this wall right here, I want you to picture this coming out and coming across to it. Typically, whenever we see cracks that are running on an angle like this, that angle is, if we follow it, so this one's going down and to my left here, that's going to point to the last point of support. So one of two things is happening here. Either this whole area is settling, or something is lifting up or heaving underneath this point over here. All right. So if this is a corner, I'm typically going to have a sister crack or a partner crack with it, and that tells me that corner is probably settling. Now, most settlement occurs from surface drainage. All right. Remember what we were talking about, the overdig and the gutters and the downspouts and how far away from the house they discharge. It also could be sidewalks, driveways, or even the earth itself sloping towards the house. Anything where we're directing water to go to that area, that water would get to the bottom up here, start weakening the earth underneath it, and let gravity allow that concrete to settle. All right. All I'm saying is we should be focusing our attention on that corner to see where that water is affecting this foundation. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. So we follow the cracks as we go down, and think of it as an umbrella. Everything underneath the umbrella is going to be settling, or something is going to be heaving up as well. Now this 1/4 inch thing that I got up here, we add up cracks. So if I had a crack here, and then another one, and another one, and another one, and each of these was 1/8 of an inch, and there's 4 of them, that's a 1/2 inch crack. All right. That means this section down here has moved at least 1/2 of an inch. That's significant. All right. At which time I'm going to recommend that they get a foundation repair company out there. Now, one of the nice things about getting a foundation repair company out there, they very rarely tell you you don't need it. They're going to tell you, yeah, we should, put this and this is what it's going to cost, and this will guarantee that it's not going to move any longer. And that's when they'll start driving piles into the earth and support that foundation from settling again. Structural engineers, they're going to be under the same handicap. A true structural engineering evaluation means we got to find out if this crack in itself is still moving. And they usually put little brackets on there if they're going to do this. And it's going to be there for like 6 months or more. And they're going to measure weather, rain, everything else that comes into that area to see if it's still moving. If it's not moving, then it's not a problem. But in a real estate transaction, we don't have that luxury. It needs to be decided on now. So when we have a few different structural engineers that we call out to these things, they kind of follow the same rules that we do. All right. So I don't know. For me, it's just, my opinion is, if I know what they're going to call out as a problem, and you want to be secure and make sure the problem is fixed, then get the foundation repair guys out there and have the peace of mind, get it done. If you want to roll the dice, then you as a client, you can roll the dice and have it done. And, quite frankly, if that's the case, then I'm going to refer you to get a structural engineer out here. I want that problem. If somebody's going to make it their own problem, let that guy do it. I don't want to take ownership of it. And why? Because I know that there's going to be contractors that exist out there, and those contractors are more than happy to sell you the cure for everything and get that fixed. And guess what? The biggest phrase that we're going to end up hearing is going to be your home inspector should have told you so. All right. And once that happens again, we're the bad guys, and I just don't want to be the bad guy. Sorry, I got a little passionate on that one, so I apologize. Common sense stuff, when our earth is higher than our foundation, or higher than our floor joist more specifically, then we're going to allow water to get into the wood structure and damage that and cause wood rot. We're also going to be allowing for termites or other insects and other stuff that comes in there. These two numbers need to be memorized. All right, so please take the time and write them down. One is for floor joist. All right, and what we're talking about is the minimum bearing. So this floor joist right here, I have to have at least 1.5 inches. I don't care if it's concrete, wood, I don't care what's underneath it. I have to have at least a minimum of 1.5 inches of this floor joist is supported underneath by stacking lumber on top of the piece that's below it. If this was a beam or a girder, then I need to have at least 3 inches. All right, so floor joist 1.5 inches, and beams and girders are 3 inches. I do need you to memorize those numbers. CMUs, cinder blocks. I think I may have mentioned this earlier. See the holes that are going through in this diagram? All right. Putting cinder blocks on the sides like that, they have absolutely no structural strength whatsoever. All right. So when we're using this to ventilate for like wood stoves and things like that, that's fine. But not for supporting a house. All right. Those holes have to go up and down. They can't go on the side like this. It looks nice because you got a nice smooth flat surface on there, but that's not how they were designed. That's not how they're supposed to be able to support things. All right. Honeycombing. This is basically it's air trapped when the concrete is being formed, and I don't know. I guess in my youth I watched a few too many cartoons. All right, and I remember like Bugs Bunny and Foghorn Leghorn, you know, they would have something, or even Wile E. Coyote when he was chasing after the Roadrunner. They would have an item that would be vibrating so much, and they would end up holding this thing that was vibrating, and then all of a sudden they were vibrating too. And it's like, what the hell are you digressing for? I'm sorry, I'll get back to it. So to stop this from happening in concrete, they put these gigantic vibrators. There are rods in there that basically vibrate and shake everything up, and they hopefully get all the air that's trapped in there and let that escape and comes out of there. Well, these screens are cut off. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying now. I actually see it on mine. Well, we're going to have to go with these, and then I'll try and figure out why that's happening and work with it later. This I don't know how to fix, but thank you, Mike. And so going back to the honeycombing stuff, we got those big vibrators to get the air out of it. Now, this doesn't really hurt anything structurally, and again, I'm throwing my 2 cents and my opinion on this thing. But once we start seeing the steel, the rebar that's mixed in with the concrete, now we're going to expose that to water and allow that to rust, and when it rusts, it expands, and when it expands, it's going to start busting up our concrete foundation. So typically, you'll see somebody schmooey over a parge coat or put more mortar or something on top of that, just to make it smooth. But all in all, for the most part, small areas I really don't care about, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. All right. So our supports, as I said, on the bottom of the support, it's supposed to be the keyway that's going to keep it from kicking in, and then we have anchor bolts on the top and the floor joists that are going to keep the tops from going in there as well. So we need to support them both at the top and the bottom when it comes to it. And obviously if we don't, things start leaning. If it gets too far and we have more earth pushing on it, we're going to end up with more problems that come in there. All right. Now there's other options. Keyway isn't the only way. I've seen where people put steel rebar up in here too. But after the house is built, there's no way we're going to tell what's there. We're just going to look and see if something's given away. So if it looks like the bottom is being pushed in or the top is being pushed in, those are the things we're going to want to photograph and document. All right. Horizontal cracks are pretty serious. You know, if you start thinking about the the horizontal cracking on it, or you get that knee buckling. And I don't know if any this has ever happened to you or not, but sometimes you get where somebody gave you the old kick behind your kneecap, and then the weight of the body is pushing down on that as well. So we have the weight of the house pushing on the foundation with a horizontal crack. That gets pretty serious, you know. So as far as we're concerned, they shouldn't be ignored. Now, that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Everything can be fixed and repaired, all right? Yeah, it just doesn't need to be ignored is what we're going at. So different things that give us that horizontal movement, that horizontal pressure. Tree branches, I've seen that where that's happened. A good rule of thumb is thinking that whatever the leaves, you know, it's called the drip line, as far out as they go. However thick the roots are, however thick the tree branches are going over a house, you should be picturing that the roots are just as thick and just as strong. Wherever those branches, how far out they go, those roots are trying to get there as well, because that's how the water is going to be dropping down to the ground, and those roots need to get to that area in order to capture the water and bring it back into the tree. All right. So big trees, big roof lines that are going up over houses, there's a good chance that there's good tree roots coming either under our foundation or going into the foundation as well. All right. So one of the easy solutions, we encourage people not to let the trees grow over the house. Trim them back and keep them smaller so they're not getting in there. Not to mention the damage and stuff that they do to the roofing materials when they rub on them as well. So that's another issue. Heavy vehicles or heavy weighted equipment, you know, as they're shown in this diagram, vertical weight comes down, pushes the earth into the foundation. That's another thing that could cause some movement. Even when the backfill comes in there, if it's shocked and too hard where it goes in there, then that's also something else that can create issues and problems with stuff. All right. So again, it's not necessarily the end of the world when you're getting this happening to you, and it can be fixed. And we'll talk about some of those solutions in a little bit. This is another one that's actually pretty common. I know there's a lot of areas in our south suburbs and where they use cinder blocks or CMUs for construction, and typically around a foot below grade level, you know, or less, we're going to get water that gets in between the blocks in here or into the concrete, whatever, on a horizontal crack, but yet we're not below the frost line. So that water gets in there and it freezes. And when water freezes and turns to ice, it expands. It's solid now. And it literally heaved that section. All right, that phrase is called adfreezing or adheaving. Anytime we're taking, you know, heaving is moving the whole thing. Adheaving is moving just part of it. All right. So if we get water coming in there, you'll see a horizontal crack that is present, but there's no bulging with the walls whatsoever. All right. So as we go back to these other pictures, we can see there's bulging that's associated with that horizontal cracking. Even though this picture is kind of showing the same, typically there isn't. All right. This doesn't panic me as much, but I still think it's a good idea to make sure we put something in there, get the water drained and drained away from the house so we don't take the chances of that happening. I don't think I've ever run into a foundation being too thin. I honestly don't measure anything. I really don't know how you would be able to get to a spot to measure it in the first place, unless it's a crawl space opening or, you know, something like that. But you know, it exists, I guess, and that's why we're going to chat on it right away.